And Daniel, how was your meditation in the last week? It could have been troublesome with your mother dying and stuff.
Yeah, well, I've stuck to it, and yeah, since like I told you about that app that I've been using, I'm today will be the 33rd straight day.
Good,
So since I started it, I haven't missed a day.
good. And actually, my own experience is times of heavy emotion for me are actually good times to meditate because the meditative state gives me some kind of clarity
Yeah,
to use to look at the stuff.
yeah, it's been good to step back and yeah, just get perspective. So it's been very helpful.
Good, good. How's your meditation been, Doug?
Oh, hi. Pretty good. Daniel, I'm really sorry to hear about your mother.
Thank you.
Uh,
Appreciate it.
I got here, I think, in the middle
Right.
of the conversation, but yeah, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it very much.
Well,
My
we're also.
meditation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
My meditations this week. I've meditated four, I think five days,
Hmm.
and it's been a good meditation each time.
Good.
Uh, Not as deep as I'm hoping to get, but uh, but but still they're good meditations.
That's good. Have you considered meditating a couple of times a day? Since you're doing so well.
Right? Yeah. Well, I probably think about it two or three times a day, but it seems like if I have something to do, the meditation is the first thing that gets zapped off the
Sure,
calendar,
sure, sure.
and uh, and I don't. That's not a good thing, I know. But that's so far
Hmm.
with me, that's what
Right.
happens,
That's where it is in your priority list.
right?
Now, and the reason why I was suggesting this, Doug, is that
Uh,
in the last few weeks there have been meditation practices and things like that that I've suggested that you went and tried. And
uh-huh.
so I thought I would try, well, how about meditating twice a day and plant a seed and see if it'll sprout?
Well, my sessions have been getting a little longer.
Good.
Uh, I think yesterday it was about 30 minutes
Hmm.
that I meditated, and without even realizing
Hmm.
that all that time had gone by. Yeah, I'd gotten sort of in the we meditate for what, about 10 or 15 minutes
10,
here.
10 and 15.
Yeah. So that's sort of the routine I had gotten into also when I meditate on my own.
Hmm.
But now they are getting a bit longer.
Hmm. So anyway, that's good. And if it was longer than you thought, it meant that
Yes,
there was absorption going on during the meditation, and you were so absorbed that you didn't notice the time going by, and that's a
right.
real
Yeah.
positive sign. Okay, how about you, Barley?
Well, I can't say that I meditate every day, and when I do, it's usually 10 minutes. And I've been going back to that one called Calm because I easily find that on YouTube. So, so it's going. Not where I want it to be yet, but I'll keep on.
Okay, well, keep it going. Keep it going. How about you, Evelyn? I see you at our house meditating many
Yeah.
days.
Well, yesterday I had an opportunity to meditate in the immigration office,
Uh
and
huh.
that was a way of as soon as I saw the immigration officer lady go, hmm, hmm, I'm like, you know, it turned out fine. But I chose to be quiet rather than get myself into a mental uproar. Yeah. So it's nice, to start being able to use meditation situations like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you can learn to make a choice to be quiet
Yes.
instead of getting agitated.
Yeah. You can actually.
So it turns out that our emotions are not running us without us being able to step in and take conscious control.
Mhm.
And, to me, that is one of the real powers of the practice is you start to learn that you are the cause of this stuff going on uh, with the choices that you make. And if you don't like
Yeah.
what it is, then make some other choices.
Yeah. So true.
Anyway, let us now then have our first meditation. And mindfulness is present moment awareness, paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non judgmentally. Feel your breath in and out. Fully receive whatever is experienced. Then let it go. Hello. right. Now, today I want to talk about the four states of consciousness. These ideas are integral to the Hindu ideas. Excuse me while I adjust my screen. Okay, back to the script. These states are integral to the uh, Hindu ideas, and they were first written down in the Mandukya Upanishad about 3,000 years ago. The states are waking, dreaming, dreamless sleep, and what's called the fourth. Most of what we know about the world and ourselves is from the waking state. This is what we think reality is like. This is the state in which we meditate. We rarely question this state, nor do we see it as transient, even though it daily comes and goes. Now, next is the dream state, and we're all familiar with the dream state. It's interesting, though. It has worlds and characters and plots and adventures and dramas and visions of yourself, all while the senses are inert. This demonstrates the mind's ability to create and project its own reality. The reality in the dream is obviously not from your senses. If you notice, you will see that the dream is replete with sensory experiences, with vision and sound, of course, and touch and taste. Where does this sense of reality come from in a dream, though? The dream seems real. Where does the sense of reality come from? It's not from the objects in the dream. Now, deep dreamless sleep is something that we don't seem to experience directly. The aware mind is turned off during deep sleep, so we're not keeping track of it like we do in waking and dreaming. There is still, though, something that knows. We say from our experience, I slept well or not well. Sleep is felt as a kind of happiness, too. Some teachers point out that we are the happiest, when the mind is the least active in sleep. Now, this fourth state, the fourth state of consciousness, was called Turiya in the Mandukya Upanishad. The fourth is a detached, disengaged, witnessing mode of consciousness, transcending the other three states. It knows the other three states. The fourth is the true being state where you just are. You are no longer an actor in the drama of your life. You are merely the witness. And so these are the four states. We move through them every day. They're common to all of us. And by starting to look at these states, you can start to have another way to be able to look at your own experience and to kind of wonder about what's going on here, really. And now we're going to have a video. The name of it is There Four States of Consciousness, and it's by Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's a researcher, lecturer, and author. And what he's talking about here is the connection between brain biochemistry and uh, these states of consciousness. And it seems pretty far out, but I think you'll find it interesting.
If we have those receptors in our brain, it must mean our brain is capable of making those substances. And so there's four states of consciousness. There's wakefulness, there's sleep, there's dreaming, and then there's a transcendental moment. And when you've had enough of everything in this 3D world and nothing new is happening, you start wondering if there's something else. And so for me, you have a few mystical moments when you're a kid or in your early part of your life, and you start chasing that experience. And so for me, I wanted to understand if there was a bridge between that world where there are infinite number of dimensions and this three-dimensional world that we live in. So my interest in explaining this mystical science of the pineal gland is really thinking of the pineal gland as the brain's radio receiver. And it can only be activated through a certain process. And we have the most beautiful brain scans to show that we're seeing a trend. That when a person begins to take their attention off of everything material, three-dimensional reality, a narrow focus on matter, a divergent focus, and they begin to broaden their focus, they begin to open their focus and create what's called a divergent focus. When they do that properly, the act of opening their awareness and putting their attention on nothing begins to suppress this thinking brain and slow brain waves down into alpha, but not just any kind of alpha, very organized, coherent alpha. And now we're seeing the beauty of when they really can just allow their body to rest and almost fall asleep and keep their mind awake. There's this door, there's this opening. And when they silence the activity in the neocortex, they get beyond their analytical mind, their thinking brain, that memory bank of the known self. And if you're in theta, there's very little brain activity there, so you're aware, you're kind of conscious in your subconscious mind. Now we start to see very profound patterns where theta levels, and even delta now, become the primary frequency in the brain. And not just a little theta, not just a lot of theta, like a lot of theta. And when you see that way outside of normal, we now know what's about to happen. We now know in the next instant there's going to be an arousal. And now the sympathetic nervous system switches on when you feel pain, when you feel fear, and when you feel anger or aggression. And it's mostly survival stuff. But when this latent system switches on, and the sympathetic nervous system switches on, the arousal that's created is energy moving from the body right up into the brain. And when that gate at the brainstem called the thalamic gate opens up, and that energy rushes all the way up into the pineal gland, the moment that happens, the brain goes into what's called gamma brainwave patterns. Now, the amount of gamma that we're measuring is not a lot, not a real lot, not a super amount of a lot.
It's like Hulk levels.
Like extraordinary amounts, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of standard deviations outside of normal. Now, the amount of coherent gamma in the brain in that moment is a sign the person's having a very subjective experience that we're measuring objectively. They're having a full-on sensory experience without their senses. And whatever's going on between their ears, the vision that they're having, they're not visualizing. It's happening to them. In other words, if your senses were heightened by 25% right now, everything you were seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, if your senses were heightened, your awareness of everything around you would be heightened. And awareness is consciousness. You can't have consciousness without energy. So now, all of a sudden, the energy in the brain goes way up. And the person now is literally in a whole nother world. They're in another dimension. That's why the pineal gland is called the third eye, because it's a profound vision. Now, once the autonomic nervous system switches on and it goes into gamma brainwave patterns, that radio receiver has tiny little calcite crystals, stacked rhombohedrons that are on top of each other. And those crystals begin to shimmer. They begin to oscillate. And now the radio receiver is activated. And now all you got to do is keep this mechanism suppressed and tune into frequencies. And all those frequencies carry information. And when the brain latches on to a frequency, the pineal gland acts as a transducer. And a transducer is no different than a TV antenna that takes one form of energy, frequency, and turns it into, or transduces it into imagery. And the pineal gland begins to release upgraded versions of melatonin. Melatonin already causes us to dream, but now, you're gonna really dream. It already causes us to relax, but now you're gonna make a benzodiazepine. You are gonna chill way out. You are no longer gonna be in survival. The melatonin is already an antioxidant, but you're gonna make two of the most powerful antioxidants known to man: anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-heart disease, anti-stroke, anti-neurodegenerative, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial. 2 molecules release the same chemical in the brain that hibernating animals produce. No sex drive, no appetite, no preoccupation with the outer environment. That means you move out of survival, the body goes into stasis. The body can dream for as long as you want. And now, all of a sudden, you start to release the same chemical found in electric eels. What is that? The nervous system is going to become electrically activated. The amplitudes of energy are going to go up in the brain. There's going to be a profound firing. And then you make that one amazing chemical called dimethyltryptamine. And that begins to switch on. And what happens is, you no longer move through space to experience time. You move through times, and you experience dimensions or spaces. And the biggest lie that we've ever been told is that we're linear beings living a linear life. We are dimensional beings living a dimensional life. And when the doors of dimension open to you, and you get a glimpse of how big this really is, you are going to care less about politics. You're going to care less about who's famous and who isn't, because you're going to realize you're all of that and more. And all of a sudden now, we have people that have switched this system, this latent system on, and they have a greater understanding of who they really are. And it all of a sudden shows that there is no past life. They're all happening now. I don't know how else to say that. And when we activate this latent system, the information that's being translated into profound imagery, that experience, that rich experience enriches the brain. Now you're laying down circuits for something that has nothing to do with the material world, and that experience produces an emotion, but the emotion is not going to be guilt or shame or unworthiness or fear. The emotion is going to be ecstasy or bliss. And the stronger the emotion you feel, the more you're going to be paying attention to those pictures in your mind. And literally, you're going to begin to rewire your brain for the mystical. And when you open your eyes and you come back to your senses, you're going to see a broader spectrum of reality. You're going to begin to see what has always existed, but you didn't have the circuits in place to experience them, because we don't see things how they are. We see things how we are. So now the person all of a sudden opens their eyes, and I've had this happen. You see colors and light like you've never seen before. You hear, everything's melodious, everything's unified. It's the smell, the taste, the feeling of everything is just enhanced. And we're here in three-dimensional reality for that. I mean, we're here to really experience life fully. I mean, that's why I'm here. That I'm not going to be guilty. I'm not going to be sad. I mean, how many times have we done that? I mean, that mystical moment, when you have that experience and you begin to perceive in a whole different way, and you connect to that intelligence, you will see that energy, that intelligence in every human being, in everything around you, and you'll feel more connected and less separate. And I think that's why we're here.
All right. Now we're going to have our final meditation. Breathe in and breathe out. Long, slow breaths. Breaths from your belly button. And now just notice your waking state. This is the waking state. Now notice you're noticing your waking state. Notice the noticing. This is Turiya. This is the fourth. All right, let's do a short chant. Om Shanti,
Shanti, Shanti,
Shanti,
Shanti.
Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. All right. Now, notice that all the magic things that he was talking about brains and brain chemicals and stuff like that, all of that starts to happen when you have a quiet mind. And so that quiet mind is what we're learning how to have here in these sessions. Any comments or questions?
Well,
And
I
turn on
liked
and
the
drop out.
video.
I liked it too.
Go ahead.
I said tune in, turn on, and drop out. That's what it
Uh huh.
reminded
I enjoyed the video. He talked so fast. I lost track a couple of times,
Ah, okay.
and all those terms, the gamma and the this and that. I don't know,
Yes.
but it did make sense, and part about dreams. Dreams are really fast. I love dreams, except when I dream about snakes, and I don't like those. But
Uh
normally,
huh.
but dreams are really fascinating.
Right.
me. I love dreams too.
Except about snakes.
Now, and I hate to tell you guys, but there are a lot of spiritual teachers who say that the waking state is like a dream too.
Mhm.
So, and there is actually real deep meaning behind that because you'll find if you examine the waking state that much of what you experience is really these mental creations like dreams in your sleeping state, and you just create them in the waking state and project them onto your reality, and then you say, "This is real." So there's
Even if it's not good real, huh?
uh-huh. So there's actually a lot of depth there.
Yeah, it's funny. Woke is like the new catchphrase for everything these days. About whether it's transgender, GLBT. It's being woke is someone that is predominantly someone that's quite asleep when it comes to so many other larger things. It's funny when you said politicians don't matter. I forget what it's like, but I'm like, well, they don't really these, but I have all of his books. I haven't read them all. I have all of them in ebook. If anybody would want them,
Hmm.
but very, very brilliant guy. Very brilliant guy. Yeah, very. Yeah, and with the theta and the gamma, you can get like even on YouTube, there's different where the binaural beats where they have they're set to like 528 frequency is
Right.
the Schumann frequency and but it'll help getting into these states. It's better
Uh,
to do it on your own, of course, but you know.
there have been devices to
Hmm.
help you do this stuff for at least 50 years. I remember
Absolutely.
with my brother in the 1970s, he had glasses that you could sit up and it would run these different brain frequencies, and when you
Hmm.
put them on, then you would start to feel the different effects. So, there are all of these levels in the brains that we don't really know nearly as much about, that are involved with brain biochemistry and brain frequencies and stuff like this. We're starting through the scientific work of guys like that to understand it more. And of course, in the meditation arena, they've been observing these things literally for thousands of years, and uh, the practices are aimed at developing these kind of states within each of us. So keep meditating and be happy, and you don't know where it goes. But the people I know who have taken it the deepest just sit and smile. So, anyway, namaste. Good to see you, and we'll see you
Namaste.
next week and have good meditations.
Yeah.
And
Look,
thank you.
yeah. See you guys.
See you.